Questions about the purging issue or House Bill 402?
I think what the Secretary of State is going to respond is that he's made it easy to vote and hard to cheat in the state, and that voters can go online and check their registration before Election Day, and some would say they have a responsibility to do that. What is the voter's responsibility to make sure that they're registered and eligible to vote?
Well, a voter has to register to vote, and that is a process that they have to complete. And once they complete it, they shouldn't have to keep checking it, at different points in time. It should be something that they do to access one of their fundamental rights. And then when they want to vote, when an election comes up, they shouldn't be in fear that it won't be easy for them to vote, and that they will no longer be registered because of this wrongful purging. And federal law protects from this. We're not supposed to be doing this. It's against federal law that was put in place for a reason, to encourage voting and encourage registration, and we're making it awfully hard for people here in the state of Ohio.
Sure. I would just maybe add to that one quick thing, which is there is absolutely no justification for removing someone from the voting rolls if they've lawfully registered to vote and haven't moved. And the supplemental process within the directive does exactly that. So there's simply no way one can argue that making people re-register because you've rescinded their registration, their lawful registration, just because they haven't participated in a period of time makes it easier to vote. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it much harder to vote. So I would just add that to this discussion.
I think the other side would say that sometimes when people don't vote for long periods of time, that they could have moved, they could have had all kinds of changes, and that, by taking them off the rolls, it makes the rolls more accurate, especially if they haven't updated. Can you respond to that?
Again, I think that we need to carefully balance the interests here. And of course, we want to have an up-to-date voter roll, but is that more important than people's fundamental rights? And right now, our balancing process is out of whack. We are the #1 purger of voters in the country, and we are much too aggressive in our effort to take away people's voter registration and their right to vote. So while we want to do that, we want to make sure things are up to date, we don't need to punish people and take away their rights in order to do that.
Representative, what would you support as a proper purging or cleaning up of the voter roll? When should they be taken off?
Well, the legislation would allow for people to be removed from the rolls if they move out of state. And that's what the National Voter Registration Act allows, and we are supportive of doing that. You shouldn't be registered in Ohio if you have filled out a change of address to say you've moved out of state. And I think that is fine to purge voters for that reason, and the legislation would allow that.
Do you support any other reasons for purging or cleaning up the rolls besides that?
Well, for this specific problem, I do not support taking people off the rolls simply for not voting. And that is the problem that we are trying to address with this legislation. There are other allowable reasons for updating the rolls, but this is the particular process that's happening in Ohio that needs to stop and is making it harder to vote.
Does it change anything about if someone dies,
No, that's a different process that's not part of this legislation.
You are carrying this legislation, and it's largely Democratic legislation at this point, which in a Republican General Assembly doesn't have a real good shot of going anywhere. How do you get this legislation moved forward? Are you going to get more co-sponsors, or is there another? What are you doing?
Well, one of the things that this does today is highlight the problem that 2 million voters have been taken off Ohio that we are at risk of litigation over this matter, over being in violation of federal law. There are outside groups looking at this issue, and I present this opportunity to address that issue by protecting Ohio voters in Ohio's law and to prevent costly litigation and the divisive way we deal with election issues in Ohio. And I hope that Republicans and Democrats can come together like they have in different years and address this critical issue. We should level the playing field, allow all voters that want to register and participate to do so, and then have our debate on the issues and the candidates, not on rigging the rules, picking our voters, and making it harder for people to vote.
Do you see this as a purposeful rigging of voters? Do you see his actions as a purposeful rigging, trying to skew things his way?
I do think that this is a deliberate attempt to make voting harder in Ohio and to make it harder for certain people to vote, people who are maybe more transient, who move more. You see that this disproportionately affects minority voters. I'm very concerned about everyone's right to vote and think that we need to stop this harmful practice today and do everything we can to get eligible voters back on the rolls and participating in our elections.
Just make sure, but the 2 million voters you say in the purging roll, what does that all include? The reasons why they were taken out?
That is the list since Secretary Husted took office. Those are the people who haven't voted frequently enough according to his directive and who have filled out the change of address form, so moved in state or out of state.